Hello, my name is Eric Putkonen. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to talk about enlightenment and renunciation. Now, depending on your spiritual path or tradition, you'll hear of renunciation and that renouncing the world or renouncing worldly life is vitally important. And I think it's somewhat misunderstood these days. Renunciation is very much tied to attachment and letting go of the world and basically letting go of the idea of my and mine, letting go. Now, as a spiritual practice, it can somewhat weaken the concept of me or the idea of me. But I'm also sometimes asked, well, is renouncing the world, becoming a hermit in a cave with no comforts or, wealth or no sex, and basically giving up everything, is this a requirement for becoming enlightened? And of course, the answer is no. Enlightenment is not dependent on this kind of external renouncing the world. True renunciation is more of an internal thing. Now, I think the other caveat is, as a spiritual practice that's held high in many traditions, I think it should be pointed out that to a certain degree it has become a faking what happens or arises naturally after enlightenment. Those that, when after enlightenment happens, there is no attachment. There's non-attachment to the world. And so I know some people, over the eons have seen this kind of action or attitude by the enlightened and said, well, I'm going to emulate that in the hopes of it'll make me enlightened. And you can't fake it to make it. So, but as a spiritual practice, it does help weaken the idea of me. It helps weaken the me a bit to give up my and mine. Because renunciation is very much aligned or in line with attachment. And so you're trying to let go. When people talk about renunciation, they're usually talking about comfort, wealth, and sex primarily. And I'll just stick to that for now. But they'll give up comfort. And so what they'll do is they'll adopt discomfort. They become attached to discomfort. They start laying on beds of nails or on bare stone, jagged stone, because they don't want any comfort. It's like they're trying to beat the mind and psyche into submission by pain. And that is not renunciation. That is attachment to discomfort. If you are renouncing the world and so you renounce wealth, you sometimes and often will see they become very attached to poverty. Someone will offer them something and they're like, oh no, I can't accept because I've renounced everything. And so it's actually helping fuel this idea of me. It's like, oh, I can't do this because I'm supposed to be doing this. And so it's building the story of me and I, not diminishing it, but not seeing through it. And then sex, people will renounce and then they'll say, well, I'm going to give up sex. But it's one thing to just remove it from life. It's another to actually let it go. Because if a monk or yogi has renounced the world and become celibate, but in the cave is dreaming of women, what did he really renounce? He simply removed women from his immediate location, but he hasn't let go of women. So that's not renunciation. True renunciation is non-attachment to really both sides. If you're going to renounce the world, and so say renounce comfort, you also need to renounce discomfort. if you're going to renounce wealth, you need to renounce poverty. If you're going to renounce celibacy, if you're going to renounce sex, you need to renounce celibacy. You can't renounce one side and become attached to the other. That's not true renunciation. That's just becoming attached to something else, and that helps fuel the ego in a different way. It becomes a spiritualized ego. Look at what I've given up. And then the suffering sometimes will creep in because the mind and ego will go, look what I've given up, but I still haven't attained enlightenment. And so then the struggle, why haven't I given enough? This kind of thing builds. And so I would say if you're going to renounce the world, renounce both sides. And this is a attitude of non-attachment. And so it is like a bank teller. A bank teller uses and works with money all day long, but they're non-attached to the money. And so if a robber shows up and robs the bank, the teller does not feel that they've personally lost anything. The money was never theirs. So it's like a water off a duck's back. It's no big deal. It rolls away. But that's not to say that a bank teller is foolish with money, because they're not just going to start passing out money willy-nilly to everybody and go, see, money doesn't matter to me, and just it's not theirs. But they need to be a good steward per se, and so they need to manage money correctly. They need to do their role, but they're not attached to it. And so, and that's what true renunciation is a letting go of the world. But it does not mean becoming stuck on the opposite. So if you're going to renounce the world, it does not become now you're stuck on discomfort, stuck on poverty, stuck on celibacy, because that means you're still stuck on the things you're trying to let go of. You're just stuck the opposite way. Instead of being attached to comfort, you're attached to discomfort. Instead of being attached to wealth, you're attached to poverty. This doesn't help. Renunciation would be a letting go of both sides. If wealth comes or doesn't come, or poverty comes or doesn't come, doesn't particularly matter. Not to a true renunciate. A true renunciate can live in the world, have a house, a job, a family, pay taxes, pay bills, but they're not affected by it. They're not attached to it. They've let it go. Whether it's there or not there is not of particular importance. And that's what true renunciation is that it's almost, it's very much what Jesus said, being in the world but not of it. It is you're still engaged and active and working with the world, but you're not really of it. You're not really stuck in it. You're not attached. And so that is what true renunciation is. If you want to adopt it as a spiritual practice, you're free to do so. Like I said, it tends to weaken the me and my to let go. But don't think it's going to cause enlightenment, because you can't fake it to make it. I'm hoping this clarifies what renunciation is. If you have any questions that I did not cover, please post below, and I will get to them as I can. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, and you'll be kept in the loop in future videos. And also feel free to share. If there's somebody that that you think might like one of my videos, send a link. But thank you much.